We have an entrepreneur, architect, and one of my really good friends, Pranav, over here. He has a studio which is called In Root Studio. Also, he runs a company called Material 360, which we'll be talking about elaborately in the podcast today. Personally, I feel like you're a really inspiring person and I think a really good friend, to have generally for like the kind of journey I've been having and I've met you. I feel like we are on the same kind of boat of exploring a lot of things in our journeys. So yeah, this is why we are sitting here and having a conversation. Of course, you're an architect, so you're here. So I have been really intrigued with your journey at Material 360. I keep asking you if I can take a lot of data from there. So how did you start creating all these blog posts, which is very different for an architect to come up with an idea like that, right? And there's a lot more to it, is what I understand. Because I come to you and you're like, no, no, Madhavi, it's not only a blog, but there's so much more to it. Tell me everything about it.
First of thanks a lot for the introduction. So yeah, talking about Material 360, there are two aspects to it. If you have to look at it on a deeper level, there are two problems that we are solving. The first one is the documentation, and the second one is we are leveraging AI to the industry professionals. And by the industry professionals, I mean the AC industry. So let's talk about the first one. So it's about the documentation. I truly believe that architecture, interior design, like on a broader level, the AC industry is very devoid of documentation. We do not have enough documentation to look upon, and documentation on materials, on design, on services, on construction methods, and so on. And I can go on and on. But we do not have enough documentation. So what happens when we execute a project without documentation is we're going to face a lot of challenges. So having a comprehensive understanding of materials will help a lot. And that's when we started out with the documentation for Material 360. We have also included key learnings from our experience as well. And we have consolidated all that and we've started posting out as blogs.
Let's break down what you're meaning by documentation, because as an architect, the whole process of creating design is also documenting design, right? Where we are making drawings, we are telling this is the material, that's happening, but still the documentation part is not covered. So can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Okay, that's a very good question. So to break it down on a simpler level, for example, if we talk about interiors, what you have different components. You have plywood, you have laminate, you have edge banding. So what makes a plywood good? So we need documentation on that. We have to quantify. So quantification comes in the documentation aspect. So it is not about just going with the narratives that the vendors put out saying that this plywood is good, that plywood is good. Right. We have to break it down, and just by looking at it, we should be able to gauge whether the plywood is good or not. And with respect to plywood, we can break it down even further. I mean, there's a core material, there's a surface material, and you can look upon these factors and also the calibration tests. You can look down these, like I would say, a 5-point checklist, and then come to a conclusion by yourself that whether or not the plywood is up to the mark or not. So talking about plywood, even laminates, there are some laminates which are cheap, there are some laminates which are expensive. Why is there a cost difference? It's because of the papers. Some are manufactured in India, some are manufactured in Europe. That's where the difference comes up to. And what is the exact difference? We need to quantify that, right? We can't be happy with just this is a European paper, this is an Indian paper. So what is the difference? Does durability come into play? So it's about these things. It's all about quantifying these aspects of materials, and then architects can take a well-informed decision to select materials for their clients.
Right. So I think this part we were also discussing to create a material library, right, for India on a larger broader level, but also per state, because we have so many kind of different raw materials which we get. For me, it's a very interesting process, the approach which you have taken, because I was taking a really different approach altogether. I had seen something in Europe and I came and I pitched it to you also. But what is the other part? I think this part is a little bit more clearer to me, which is basically understanding that there are so many materials and you should have a comparison of all of them. in terms of different kind of physical strength part of it, or like the kind of texture you need and stuff, so that me as a designer can just go through this library and say this is what I need for this specific project of mine, and it fits, right? But this is not it, is
Yeah.
what I
Yeah, this
understand,
is not it. So the
right?
second part is the tech aspect, right? We are offering cutting edge technologies to the AEC industry. And when I say cutting edge technologies, we are talking about AI, we are talking about SEO. So recently we built two products for two different companies. The first one is called Quote AI. So there was a interior design company which had a requirement to develop preliminary quotation for home interiors. So usually how this works is people generally spend anywhere between 3 to 5 hours just to make the preliminary quotation, which is just not the best use of time. I would put it that way.
Right.
So they wanted to develop a product with us where they wanted to automate this process, and we built a product to them which is called Quote AI, which actually develops preliminary quotations in under 2 minutes, right? From taking 3 to 5 hours and to getting it done in 2 minutes. So that's a
Right.
big thing. So that's one optimization that company truly wanted. And this is of relevance because that company used to get 25 leads per month. So you just do the multiplication. So 25 into 5, that's a lot of time, right? That they're spending on a preliminary quotation.
Right.
So that is the first thing. So the second company that we worked with had a very slow website, and they wanted to revamp their website. And so what we offered was again a website which is very fast, which is SEO friendly, and we configured the backend uh, to such an extent where it can handle even 1 million visitors per month, right? So this is what we do, and we enable businesses to grow on any level by using AI. And we specialize in building products with AI. And with AI, the nature of AI is the speed that you get with it. And instead of taking months for product development, we can literally build products in 2 or 3 days. So that's what we are offering to the AEC industry. And we are hoping to continue along this journey as well. And also to work on the documentation aspect, because I truly believe that's very important.
Yeah. I mean, your journey has been really unique in terms of you have been founding a multiple companies in like last 5 years, I would say, right? Just talk me through like how it has been. It's not that easy as I mean, I'm sure you're making it sound right now. It seems like you're doing 5 things at a time. But how did that whole process of making companies start? And is it really that easy to come up with an idea and actually execute it?
To talk about our journey, architecture and interior design industry, it's already set. So we did not have to have a unique idea. So we had to understand the parameters as to what are the causes and effects. And us forming the company was all about how do we fit into the industry and how do we have a unique selling proposition so we actually stand out among our competition, right? So that was the whole approach, and we did not reinvent the wheel. I mean, the industry has been there for a very long time, and what happened was. I truly believe for a company to happen, you need to have the right set of circumstances, you need to have the right set of people. And what happened was with myself and Ishwar, he's my partner, we had a very good dynamic. So he was very passionate about design and he was very passionate about details. And myself, I was not interested in design. I was interested more in the business side of things. So that was two people with a complementary skill set actually played very well. So I was more in charge of marketing, branding, customer acquisition, maintaining ledgers, having a good online presence, and things of that nature, right? And managing projects, things of that. So Ishwar, on the other hand, was more of, I would say, he's so creative that if you just leave it to him, he'll probably direct a movie, right? Because he sees things differently. And that dynamic worked out very well. And when we started, obviously, we did not know a lot of things. Uh, but one thing I think our USP has been when a requirement comes up for a project, we make sure we know in and out of that. and that's been the key to our progress, is what I feel. So initially, we started out a company called Indus Design Studio. That was an architecture and interior design consultancy, just the design. We did that for 1.5 years, and then slowly we realized there were bigger opportunities and bigger value additions to the client for with the turnkey solutions. That's when we started Indus Construction and Interiors, and we've been doing that for 4 years now. And once that is done, the AI boom happened, and we just thought it's better to leverage that. And since we noticed that we don't have much of tech, if you actually look at it, we just want to offer this capability to the industry professionals. So it's all about making companies better. So Material 360 is all about optimizing every process that a company has, and it could be even the simplest of simple things. For example, architects wanting to order from a vendor, right? The way it's been happening now is very it's very rudimentary, I would say. So the architect has to give the quantities to the vendor and go back and forth with the quotations and things of that nature. So all that can be eliminated. Yeah, so the vendor can just have a portal where he has all the products listed out, and the architect can just go to that vendor's portal, select the quantity, select the material, and the rates should be given immediately. Right? So that way you can do business better, faster, and I mean it's about optimization about every process that we follow.
So I think what you guys did right was to first understand your problem statement. You got the problem first rather than the solution. A lot of people try to come up with a solution at the first and saying this is my product, and then they try to create a market fit for it, saying now this is the problem which we are going to solve. But your approach is from the other way around, saying okay, there is a problem, there are people like there's so much time been taking for creating something, and you've experienced that personally as well. That's why the approach I think is very different to eliminate the problem itself. But in this whole conversation, which is the most interesting thing for me, is that you're talking about business a lot more than architecture and design. And that's why I wanted you to be over here and talk about things, because we do tackle business as architects, but we never talk about it as much or understand deeply in terms of breaking it down. If you're talking in terms of like SEOs or like all these things, right? Like even the terminologies. It's very interesting to talk to you about these things and extremely refreshing. Uh, because all of these things are not taught in college, right? For you, especially. We have not gone to a business school saying, okay, fine, we've done architecture, now business school, and then we understand. So I would want to understand how was your college journey as well? Because I'm sure that's a stark difference between what you're doing right now and what was happening there. And how was architecture, and why architecture then?
I was a rebel in college. As soon as the last class was done, I was out of college. I was never a person to hang out in college. That was mainly because I had a tech startup at that time, which I was focusing on. So for me, architecture truly it actually captivated my imagination. So that's why I got into architecture, and I was passionate about it to an extent. And then I realized I'm not the best designer, right? And you don't have to be a best designer to be an architect, right? In architecture you have so many different aspects. If you're starting a firm, you even need to know the business side of things, right? People generally have this notion that yeah, I have to design if I do architecture. Not necessarily. You can pivot. You can be in marketing. You can be in advertising. You can be in anything. I mean, it's a full-fledged industry, and you can be part of any process. Right. So that's what I actually understood. And but I was a good student. I used to deliver my designs on time, and
We'll give you 100 marks for that, yeah.
no, I was not a topper, but I was in probably top 6, top 7. So I was not a bright design student, but I did my work on time and things.
Do you
of that
really
nature.
think marks matter in
No, not at
college,
all.
and
No,
especially architecture?
I don't believe that even 1%, and I don't think marks is of any relevance. What is of relevance is what skills are you going to develop in that time period, right? So in that time frame of 5 years, there's so many skills that you can develop, and when you actually come out, companies will find utility for your skills, and then they'll hire you and things of that nature.
Right.
Right. So I totally feel in that 5 years, learn as much as possible and try to leverage that when you come out, things of that nature.
In terms of what we learn in architecture in India, there's a very dramatic shift, right? Like, shift right now, I see people are trying to understand how to push themselves by researching online. There is a lot of resource available also for students to go online and see what's happening in the world. When we were studying, I don't think we had that much of reference. Also, seniors were busy with their own work, so there was very little information which you could get around other than your tutors, right? How was that? Do you feel that you were actually taught really good design in school, or was it like outside of class? Because for me it was. I mean, I'm asking you this because I thought that I learned maybe like 2% of what I am right now from college, but everything else, what I started practicing or like after coming out or even traveling abroad and stuff like that, is what gave me perspective. Otherwise, at some point, I had started hating design because there was so much force of like you need to be constrained in like these. There has to be a grid system. The structures don't work. This will fall, and like everywhere, I felt like people were stopping me. Is why I'm asking you this question. What did you feel, and like what do you think, if it should change, what should change in our systems?
There are two takes. I hope I don't digress too much. The first take is, yeah, is the education system there? No, absolutely not. It definitely needs improvement.
Finally.
Yeah, it definitely needs improvement. And so what's happening is what's being taught in college and to what's actually happening there, there's a mismatch there. And because of which, when people pass out, when they come out to the world, they don't know what's happening. They're very much unaware of how things work, what is the progression of work, and yeah, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done. So that's one angle to this. Another angle is I was always the sort of a person who never blames the external factors. Okay, so I'm the sort of a person, I'm going to embrace the situation, right? Okay, this is how it is. Okay, so what am I going to do? So this is another take where don't depend entirely on the education, right? So we have to be on our own.
Correct.
And see, knowledge, information is accessible to everyone right now. I mean, it is not hidden only in the education institutions, right? It's you can find so much information, and I truly feel if you're very motivated, you will find a way to learn these things in that period. And we also have to make sure we don't adapt to a victim mindset and try to blame it on college entirely.
I agree with you in terms of fine, you should not have the victim mentality, but it shouldn't be that you're not getting taught anything in your college at all. No,
That is
I
true.
mean, I'm sure personally I will give wisdom saying, okay, everybody should be, on it, you shouldn't give up and all of that. But if your tutors are not teaching anything, and as an architecture student, or like if you are studying architecture, that's a very different field. If you've not seen somebody already in the field, you don't know how to go about it
That is true.
at all, right? So I can't just be like, okay, full power, I'm feeling happy, I'm going to do it. But it's like responsibility of a tutor to actually mentor the students, right?
Yes.
And I don't see a lot of really good teacher in our fields. People who are not being established in their, like, not able to be an architect in their field are coming and just teaching, which is not fair to the students, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of filter applied to these kind of tutors to, I mean, I'm being too rude over here, but take them out.
Yeah.
It's not helping the next future generation of designers at all.
Yeah. See, I totally agree with you on this. And I think the education needs to break down in a very systematic manner. There needs to be a systematic level of approach in teaching. So let's talk about our design projects. So in our
Oh
design,
God.
all our semester we are bombarded with one design problem and we have to work on that for 6 months, right? So to break that down even further, we are given hospital projects, we are given like cultural convention centers and things of that sort. But I totally feel what they should do is to break down a simple residential project. There's so much happening in a residential project and how to build it properly. What
Agreed.
is step one, step two, step three? What exactly happens, right? So that systemic level of education is not there, due to which we do not develop interest in that
Yeah.
because we are bombarded with 50 or 100 things at the same time, and there is no progressive level of teaching, due to which
Right.
we lose interest because we are not able to connect the dots.
And also the design you're taught in college and design which you practice are extremes, right?
Extremely, yeah, that is true.
So yeah, I mean there has to be some kind of parallel drawn over there. You need to go to sites, which is so important from the first year to see how anything is being made.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're making something from scratch. I'm not saying you're playing God, but just go sit there and see how
yeah,
things are coming up, how the digging is happening, how the columns are coming up, and everything, every single detail. And if you don't fall in love with that, I think you should take a step back because
that
this
is
is
true.
your life, right?
That is true. That
And it's fine because in architecture, there's so many other things. It's not only about designing, as you said. So I think the 5 years is to get that clarity of like where you will be going next rather than this is it,
that is true.
right?
And as you mentioned, I mean, digging up the site, setting up the foundation. So the student should, when he comes out of college, he should be able to go to a site and critique the site. To
Yeah,
critique the site, you need parameters, you need information, you need knowledge, right? And that level of insight the institution should develop within the student in
yeah,
that tenure of 5 years. That's what I truly believe.
yeah,
That's the whole point of education. Um what are the do's and don'ts? How do you judge a site? How do you, when an architect goes to site, he's not looking at walls, he's looking at the details. He's not just looking at, yeah, there are columns, there are walls, and that's about it.
right.
Even in building a wall, there's a right way to build a wall. We have to make sure the mortar joint is in 10 to 12 as per IS 456. And in many places, the mortar joint is like more than 20 So that affects the compressive strength of a wall. Nobody talks about compressive strength
Yeah,
of a wall. Only people only talk about compressive strength in column, beam, slab.
correct.
But there's a compressive strength even in a wall. So who talks about these things,
Yeah,
right? So I think institutions need to develop a deeper passion for teaching. I
yeah.
think
And
that's where,
technicality for the students
yes,
rather than
yes,
just saying design is sketching curves and
yeah.
lines and just being happy with it.
I feel it is about a comprehensive overview of a
Yeah,
particular thing that we're designing. For example, if you're doing a curved surface, okay, what materials do we use to get the curved surface,
exactly.
right? And in which materials are going to face the most problems, right?
Yeah.
All these things has to be thought. For example, a curved furniture, you can finish with laminate veneer.
Hmm.
So with laminate, what are the drawbacks? With veneer, what are the
Right.
drawbacks?
And also, the student should be curious enough to go and ask questions about all of these things, as you said.
I think on
Right?
some level, even the teachers have to convey
That you need to know
it
all of
that you need
this.
to know all of this. They
Hmm.
need to spark the curiosity. It
Correct.
is because the student,
I mean, I feel like they teach it in a way that I don't want to learn.
yeah.
I want to stop learning right there because the way they taught interior designing to us, I hated it.
You know what? It is about. I truly feel they bombard us with information, and students do not find the utility of it.
Yeah.
That's when students lose interest. They're like, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
It's just a bunch of nonsense, right? But you teach the students the basics and then you tell how to use these things in the real world. I think then students will be more passionate about our field,
Right.
right? And you get this interest. And students are in a state where they want to apply themselves in the real world, right? And if something's being taught just for the sake of it, if they do not find a utility, then it doesn't make sense to them for to hang on to what you're saying, right? So teachers definitely have to do a better job at captivating students' imagination,
Right.
right? That which they have not.
How was your transition from like, because I personally, what happened to me was I had zero knowledge. I started interning in my third year, And I felt like I have no idea where I'm heading towards because I was doing toilet tile details in my internship, and I didn't know how to place a tile. I mean, like, that's how stupid I felt. I had no idea about the softwares because we learn whatever in our college, but then we have not practiced it properly. And the guide or like principal architect kept saying, I don't know what they're teaching you in school. And this has been a standard for every first. I mean, you have been a principal architect in this studio, and there have been interns. And I'm sure you would have at some point told that I don't know what they're teaching in your college. How was your transition like?
So right after college, as I mentioned just briefly that I had a tech startup, right? So the skills that I developed in that tenure was marketing, was branding, and how to get clients, right? So these are the three areas that I had answers to, which I applied in when we started out our architecture and interior design company. So that helped a lot. So I always truly believed that starting a business, getting clients was not left to luck. Some people believe that, okay, you need to have luck, you need to get projects from the family circle and things of that nature, right? I wanted to eliminate that. So, all my life, I've always not been the person with the most popular opinion. I always take the other side and then something comes out of that, right? So I truly do not believe in mass narratives, due to which I had different mindset. For example, many people when they start their company, the first thing, how do we get project? They rely on luck. Okay, we'll see what happens. I was not like that. I knew what we had to do to get projects because I truly believe business is a process and every process can be learned. And when you learn those things and when you play around with those parameters, you get results. Will it be the results that you anticipated? No. But you're going to get some result. And then it's just a game of iterating the process and then getting to a state where you have a well-oiled machine. So it's all about that. So initially when we started, was it easy? Absolutely no. We had a lot of challenges. To be honest, for 1.5 years we worked and we used to get very small projects. We got some big projects that we did not get good payouts for. We were financially struggling. Probably our average monthly salary would be 5 to 7,000 per month for 1.5 years, right? So it was very difficult. It was not easy. But after 1.5 years, we got good projects and we took decent payouts. So I'm not here saying that okay, I had all this figured out. Even though I knew the process, it took us 1.5 years to actually get a good payout, right? And I'm not saying that for everybody it's going to take so much of time. It depends on the market conditions and things of that nature. But I truly feel everything is a process, and the moment you break it down and you start following, you're going to get results, and you need to have a little bit of courage within
So
yourself.
give me like few tips to get projects. And I know like everybody would love to get this from you.
Building a very strong online presence is very important. And when I say strong online presence, I'm not talking about fancy brand building stuff that goes into social media. I'm just talking about very simple things. Get your website done, have a social media presence on all platforms, be it Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and whatever platform that you even just dial and quicker, you have to be there, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, be everywhere, be very available online. So that's the first step. And once that is done, then it's all about posting the content, right? So when you do this for at least 2 to 3 months, they're going to appear in search results. When people search for interior designers in Bangalore or things of that nature, you have a better chance of popping out. And will you get a project or not is totally dependent on market conditions and how you navigate when you get a call and things of that nature.
Should you just take projects where you're not getting paid enough also?
That depends. That depends on what level of passion you
Because a
have.
lot of people will just tell, I'm giving you exposure, no money.
See,
They
those are
tell
all
you
very
this.
toxic clients. I don't believe in that. See, people are okay with low pay only for two reasons. Because one is they don't know where they want to be. Okay. When I say that, I'm not talking with respect to money wise, but because they do not have a clear design identity. And that is still okay. That can develop and then solidify at a later stage too. At the beginning stage, that is fine. But I would say even if you're not figured out with the design level, you have to figure out your commercials.
Right.
And you cannot charge extremely low prices too. And that's very bad for the industry, right? When people
That's the
start,
thing, right?
yeah, and it's not just you, right? I mean, you're affecting other people too, and that is not good. I feel we have to come to reasonable pricing and not too low
Maybe like
prices.
first project where you're exploring and you feel like that's an exploration phase, you can keep your numbers
Yeah.
what you feel is right, but at some point you need to come up to industry standards in like maybe 2-3 projects.
Yeah, for starters, I would say even if you're not making that much of money, is the client respecting your design opinion, right? If you have that, then go for it.
Yeah.
Then money is not of relevance
Agreed.
because you're gonna get a good feature project. If the client listens to you, right? Does he respect you? If he's not respecting you and if he's not paying enough, just walk out. I mean,
Yeah.
I would not entertain that.
Yeah.
But he has respect for your work. Even if you're a beginner, he values your design
Yeah.
inputs. But he doesn't have the money for it. If the
Yeah,
client is a
first
very
it's-
good
yeah.
person who actually genuinely wants to give you an
I think
opportunity,
you will also have interest to work on the project.
100%. Yeah, then it's not about the money, right? You can
Yeah.
just do it
Agreed.
for your passion. And in the end, what you're getting is you're getting live photos that you can put in your portfolio,
Yeah.
and that is priceless.
But again, this is like for a couple of initial projects
Yes,
only.
that's about it, and
Yeah.
not for like kinds of projects.
Do not settle for less, is what I would say. What are the major problems which you have faced in the architectural studio part, not the other businesses? Because I'm
So-
sure there are a lot.
Yeah, there are many, but one of the biggest challenges that we face is management, I would say. So to talk about this, I'll just give you a bit of context. So when we started, we were just two people. So when you have two people, those two people are the individual contributors, right? So because of which the firm operates. And we were doing that for like 3.5-4 years. And then later we have a team. We hired a team. So the biggest challenge was to kind of delegate what we were doing onto the team members. Right? So this has been the biggest challenge, and you have to let go of few things. You can't expect them to work the same way as you do. You cannot because I used to work on 15 different things at the same time, and it is very cruel for me to expect that out of a fresher, right? So that sort of understanding, that sort of reality check was the challenge for us, and we have gracefully transitioned. Is it perfect? No, but we're getting there, and it is all about again optimization. We need to optimize and get the momentum going in the right direction.
What's the most fun part about your work?
The most fun part is
Leaving the office?
I mean, the most fun part about whatever we do is to actually see the designs coming into reality. So that's been the most fulfilling thing. In turnkey projects, what happens is it is very gruesome. It's very emotionally tiring, very physically draining. But at the end of the day, when you look at the output, then you kind of console yourself with all the stuff that's happened, and you say, "Fine, yeah, we'll do another one." so, so that's how it is. So I think that's been the most fulfilling part. And also, we've executed more than 25 projects, and in every project, we have so many challenges with respect to labor, with respect to quality, with respect to material. And at that point of time, the field looks very bad, right? But in retrospect, when you actually look back, you actually kind of laugh about it. And it's actually fun then, right? And what is life without challenges? So,
Good life
yeah, it's a good life.
without challenges.
I mean, that's where I think the toxic nature of the field comes into play, right? See,
Oh, yeah.
I'm even having gone through so many stuff on site and still ending on a positive note, right? So I think that's the toxic nature. It makes you want to do more, but it'll teach you many things along the way.
I think there are a lot of toxic things, but at the end, you feel so satisfied with what
Yes.
you have created. And that's when you're like, okay, fine. Like the way you said, it's okay, we'll do another day.
Yeah.
And then we will see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in this one, we've spoken like made it really generic. In the next ones, we are gonna deep dive into a couple of things. You take workshops as well, and we'll take workshops on this channel as well. And yeah, we'll actually prick your brains a lot. This was a really, really fun interview. We've gotten a lot out of you, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's very nice to be part of this.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Get out, get out.
Done.